In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes, the order of the Abercast. We are the brave and bold.
Stigmata Studios presents The Jin Jihad. The Jin Jihad kicks your face with myths, mysteries, epic battles, suicide bombers, quirky characters, and divine power armor. In this epic graphic novel, the warrior archangels descend on a city in chaos. It's all-out war. The non-standard assembly battles an ancient terrorist organization and their ultimate weapon, a corrected, magically enhanced, unstoppable monster, the Jinn. This graphic novel is a wild ride. It's one part distant Arab myth, one part Old Testament angelic vengeance, and one part unique heroic tough guys. Available on Amazon. Get more info on the Jin Jihad and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
His sinister scheme was conceived while gazing into the depths of death's infinity well. There he learnt of the soul or infinity gem's true powers and convinced his dark mistress that the task assigned to him could not be carried to fruition without them. Not even Death realized what limitless might the Mad Titan was striving for. Through cunning, sheer strength, and murder, Thanos wrested the Infinity Gems from those that possessed them. And with each acquisition, he gained the mastery over the soul, the mind, power, time, reality, space. In other words, Thanos now has the unbridled power of a god. No longer do the laws of nature bind him. His will can bend the very fabric of reality. He is all, and all there is now his to command. Thanos is mightier than death herself, more powerful than any force in the universe. Let's finish this fucking thing up. She's on Broadway. We went to Taco Bell for some Mexican food. But Taco Bell was closed.
The Abercast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
All right. Hello, I'm John Towers. This is the Abercast. This is the third and final episode about the Infinity Gauntlet. With the new movie coming out, the new Avengers movie coming out. You know, everyone knows I'm a Marvel guy. Getting excited for Avengers 3, and I thought it would be fun and interesting to take a look back at the original Infinity Gauntlet story. We don't do fiction very often on the show. We've done Moby Dick and Star Wars episode, and we've done some mythology stuff. But this is the first time we're actually delving off into talking about actual comic book story. So we're starting this episode off with issue 5 of 6. So this is going to wrap it up. I'd like to remind everyone to support the show, rate and review on iTunes or whatnot. Visit stigmatastudios.com, newly redesigned stigmatastudios.com. There's comic book stuff on there, and there's podcast stuff on there. Patreon.com/Abercast, and that's enough. Let's just get into this. So where we left Thanos is he had just destroyed all the superheroes. he and Terexia destroyed literally every superhero that they could throw, that could have been thrown at him. I think with the exception of Warlock and Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer made it. Like, they still are alive. Everybody else is dead. And we left him with the cosmic gods of the Marvel Universe have amassed to confront Thanos. So it's eternity, love and hate, the stranger, Kronos, the Titan god of time, a couple celestials, order and chaos, and of course the devourer of planets, Galactus. And all this is being watched by Uatu, the Watcher. So I want you to grab a mason jar, fill it up, fill it up with ice cubes, throw 2 shots of your favorite gin in there, a slice of lime or lemon, and fill the rest of it up with tonic water. And that's not a drink recipe, son. That's a formula. It's a formula for a weapon. It's a formula for a weapon of mass distraction. It's called a Jin Jihad. So charge up your Jin Jihad and follow me into the Infinity Gauntlet. He starts with the Uatu, the Watcher. He says, I am known as the Watcher. My sworn task is to observe and chronicle great events within this sector of the universe. My curse is always my curse is to always witness and never participate. I must be true to this duty, even on the brink of Armageddon. Which is funny, because he's broken this vow for problems way less disturbing as Thanos wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, by the way. So, these gods beset down to Thanos. A contingent of cosmic entities challenges Thanos' might. Such a conflict may well prove more than this fragile reality can bear. And Order says, Thanos of Titan, we call upon you to surrender the Infinity Gems. And Chaos says, honor this request or face powers beyond your wildest dreams. And Thanos, who's accompanied here by Terexia the Terrible, which is a created being. Thanos just created her, so it's basically like a female version of Thanos. Mephisto, who is like the Marvel Universe version of the devil, and Eros, who is Thanos' brother, is chained to a chair without a mouth. His mouth got erased. Mistress Death is still hanging out, and also the zombified version, the caricature of Nebula, Thanos' granddaughter, is still ambulating around this shrine that he has constructed. And Thanos says, I believe you will discover the horizons of my imagination are far wider than you could suspect, Lord Chaos. To address omnipotence, tread carefully. That which you challenge is beyond even your mystic understanding. Begone, foolish godlings, or suffer my celestial wrath. Mephisto is talking to Eros now, and he says, I fancy your brother is about to put on quite a show for us, young Eros. With such grand forces aligned against him, Thanos will unleash the full fury of his power. And still, the outcome of this battle yet remains uncertain. There will be no time to worry about or energy to be wasted on non-essential priorities, such as monuments or relatives. I doubt you'll last more than a few microseconds into this conflict. But it should be a quick death. Of course, Lord Thanos has the power to rebuild his love monument afterwards. He'll make it good as new. Perhaps he'll do the same for you. Just look at that marvelous job he did on Nebula. And you see Nebula in the foreground, just a mess. She's just a mess. So Strange, who never left Earth, he's the guy working all the teleportation and communications. And he's talking about Earth falling into another ice age, because remember the sonic wave of Thanos's pissness when he was cucky Thanos pushed the Earth out of the orbit of the sun, drifting into the coldness of space. And Warlock is telling Surfer, kind of what's going on. While this fight between Thanos and these gods start, and there's just like explosions, and there's just vortexes of energy and power, and you see Uatu just floating, and he's kind of narrating this battle, and like as it's pulling out, you can see just like planets are being just destroyed with the energies and stuff that are being bandied about. And Uatu the Watcher says, the powers unleashed in the initial class are beyond the power of words to describe. Many of the edicts of nature fall victim to this assault. I sense near collapse among the entire spectrum of reality. Fear grows within my heart. The fear that I am witnessing the end of the universe. Entire solar systems in the immediate vicinity are ravaged by the effects of this celestial clash. Calculating the billions of lives lost as a result of this confrontation will have to wait. But even in such midst of such destruction, I'm awestruck by the mysteries of the soul. The Titan Eros felt certain death was near to claiming him. The only thing greater than his surprise at finding himself among the living is to discover who his savior was. Mistress Death! Her hatred for Thanos must reach unfathomable depths. So during this gigantic just clash of power, Mistress Death has encapsulated Nebula and Eros in like a force field, protecting them, who are at the heart of this battle. Surfer and Adam Warlock are knocked off their little asteroids, and they see this shockwave coming. And so Surfer grabs Warlock, and they start to peel out. They're trying to escape this shockwave of mad energy. And we see still in the center of the battle is Thanos and his Infinity Gauntlet. Charaxia is kneeled down at his side as he is waging war against the Celestials and these gods. And he's like calling in planets. These two Celestials draft helpless planets into the conflict, using them as weapons of war. The fact that some of these worlds are inhabited by sentient life cannot be a consideration in this galaxy-spanning conquest. With the speed of thought, their menacing potential is neutralized by power without limit. But a second later, it becomes apparent that their sacrifice was but a ploy a diversionary tactic. So these Celestials are throwing planets at Thanos, who is just crushing them with the power of his Infinity Gauntlet. And Kronos, the Titan god of time, is attacking. He's weaponized time, and he's attacking Thanos. And Order and Chaos are attacking Thanos, hoping to divide him. They hope to dichotomize the Titan. A divided enemy is an easier foe to deal with, but Thanos refuses to surrender his individuality, and the battle continues to rage without pause. Forces combined add up to more than the sum of their total. The temporal is abandoned for pure force of energy, and the sheer intensity of Galactus and the Stranger and Eon's blitzkrieg catches the mad Titan off balance. It is but a minor setback for Thanos, one he can overcome with a mere wish. And here we get this sort of minute to breathe, where Thanos has just basically whipped all of these guys' ass in this shocking, vulgar display of power. And the energy around the battlefield is sort of in stasis. Surfer and Warlock are looking away. They're galaxies away, but this rift of power that's being thrown and used as weapons are huge, hanging on the horizon. And Warlock says, "This is utter folly. The universe is being destroyed by those seeking to defend it. Such insanity cannot be allowed to continue. And how would you stop it? By love?" So we cut here, and here's Thanos monologuing to himself. By the heavens, what am I doing? Giving these wretches exactly what they deserve. But they are my heavenly brothers, and I will kill them all. No, I should honor and cherish them. And he sees that he's being attacked, and he's like, what madness is this? And he realizes that these twins, Love and Hate, are attacking him. Be away, bothersome manipulators. And he does away with them. And now he's being attacked by fire and flame. And Thanos says, what? Hell's fire, what? And he realizes that it's Mephisto. And Mephisto is taking this opportunity to try to wrest the gauntlet off of him. And it's not a surprise. We've kind of waited to see where Mephisto was going to make his move. And here in the middle of this battle, he jumps up and he says, Hell's fire, what? And Mephisto says, exactly, my liege. And he says, I've come to relieve you of your burden of supremacy. And Thanos says, as a responsibility I am not quite ready to relinquish, you traitor. You reverted to type prematurely, devil. An error you will pay for dearly. And he's going to kill Mephisto. And he's stopped by Mistress Death, who shoots like this black energy beam at him. And he's shocked. He was like, Mistress Death, you too betray me? And she just looks at him. Remember, she won't talk to him. He's so cooked. And he says, I offered you the universe. And it's a stalling tactic while these gods and stuff are getting their shit together. And they attack him one last time while he's pleading with Mistress Death. And when it's all said and done, what we see is that he has collected all of these beings up, and he is holding them in some sort of stasis above this shrine, which is no longer a shrine to Mistress Death. He has created it now as a shrine to himself. The monuments where Death death's heads were on this shrine are now replaced with likenesses of the Mad Titan himself, Thanos. 'Tis truly best this way. Divinity calls for clear thinking unburdened with chaotic emotion. Let me be rid of all these illusions. So here, let's get a... for I, Thanos, am supreme. And Uatu the Watcher says, who is there to argue with this sentiment? So who's left on this on the shrine? Encapsulated in a force bubble is the mouthless Eros and the zombified Nebula. Uatu the Watcher is still floating. He is not part of this stasis. He's not part of this collection of cosmic gods that Thanos has. So Thanos is still giving him a little bit of leeway. As Eros stated before, what's the point of being a god if you don't have anyone to show off to? And he has Charaxia is still on the shrine with him. So as Warlock and the Surfer they're getting away, and they stumble into a part of the galaxy that's known to Silver Surfer, and he's saying, "I don't understand. Like, there used to be planets here that had people in them, and now it's just wreckage, and it's a floating graveyard. Dead bodies are just passing him. They're witnessing a casualty from the war of these cosmic gods." And as all this is going on, we see the final sort of battle. The one of these cosmic gods that's not within the stasis, he hasn't attacked yet, and this is Eternity, and he makes himself known to Thanos. And Thanos is not surprised at all. He says, now that his foot soldiers have fallen, proud Eternity has at last deigns to show himself. And Eternity answers, to reclaim that which is mine and myself, control of this reality. He's pissed that Thanos is messing around with reality. So Thanos, in this awesome frame where you see like a profile of Eternity looking down, you see this little tiny figure of Thanos jumping up to attack Eternity, and he says, a prize I have fought hard to gain, and one I shall never abandon. And Eternity says, then let us see which almighty being truly has the tighter grip on the fabric of what is. Defend yourself, Titan. So here we are with Surfer and Warlock, and the whole galaxy just lights up. It just explodes. It's rippling with white, hot energy. Surfer is hanging onto his board, and he's saying, surely this must be the end. Warlock says, no, the outcome of yonder cosmic battle is already decided. And he asked Warlock, how do you know this? And he goes, I am linked to the Infinity Gems in ways even I do not fully understand. The mastery of all actuality is now in the firm grasp of one individual, one whose only loss when his subconscious desires betray him. And Surfer says, Thanos or Eternity, who prevailed? You mean? I do. And in that slim hope does survival lay. So they go back to the Sanctum Sanctorum where, like I said before, Doctor Strange was not there. He was not in the assault. He was holding down the home base, sort of. And they show back up. And he goes, how goes the struggle? And Warlock answers, poorly. And Surfer goes, horrendously. So here's the reveal that we see. Now in the stasis, like prison of these gods above Thanos' shrine to himself, is Eternity. Eternity is added to this collection, and Eros is freaking out. He says all is lost. On Thanos' throne, his body is there, but he's like sleeping. and Taraxia is trying to figure out what's wrong with him. And so we get this great reverse shot of the shrine with all these gods floating in a stasis above it and lurching over, made of the stars and the stellar byways of space, is now Thanos in the way that eternity was depicted as a sort of like a enormous ghost made of stars in space. And Thanos answers Taraxia, and he says, "What would you have me say, dear Taraxia?" Uatu says, "Thanos has now thoroughly usurped Eternity's rightful position as the center of all reality in this sphere. This watcher can only conclude that a valiant effort to save this plane of existence has failed." Thanos says, "No longer," or she goes, "Sire, your body," and he says, "is no longer needed. Magnificent Thanos has rid himself from the flesh, has shed all vulnerability." And here we see around Thanos' throne stands Eros, Taraxia, and the caricature, the zombified Nebula, who's just been watching this whole shit show from the whole start. And so we see his body on his throne, and Nebula's standing behind him, and her one eye is kind of searching. And he says, "As he did once before when possession of the cosmic cube, then as now, Thanos underestimated the strength of the flesh, especially charred flesh, spurred on by hatred. Deep within the withered Nebula, vengeance stirs." And she just reaches down with her zombified hands and snatches up the Infinity Gauntlet. Taraxia tries to stop her, but she puts it on, and just with a wish, she reconstitutes her body and usurps Thanos, now brandishing the Infinity Gauntlet. And she says, "Nebula steps away from the edge of oblivion. The mantle of providence rests now on new shoulders. My every wish is but an urge away. And you know what I earn for, dear Thanos. Revenge." And with the point of the Infinity Gauntlet, a point of the finger of the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos disappears. Thanos and Taraxia disappear. They're banished to a deep portion of space. Thanos is trapped and alone, for I had not the foresight to create Taraxia capable of surviving deep space without the aid of my now forfeited godly powers. I shall miss her. But survival be not a treasured prize. This body shall endure long after my spirit succumbs to this exile Nebula has banished me to. All eternity of drifting helplessly in space. An infinity to maul over my sins and follies. Well, back on Earth, Adam Warlock senses something's going on, and he just admitted that he has some kind of mysterious link to the Infinity Gems that even he can't quite explain. And he says the reins of power have changed hands. And Strange and Surfer ask how. And Warlock says, our situation has gone from bad to worse. The newly christened Almighty is deranged from months of pain and anguish. Strange, I have need for your mystic talents. And what he does is he has Thanos rescued from his exile and brought to the Sanctum Sanctorum. And so Thanos is laying there in Strange's study now, and Warlock says, welcome to Mother Earth, brother Titan. So they show up. Surfer doesn't understand why he's there, so he just launches an attack. And they start battling, and Warlock and Strange realize that they don't have the power between themselves to separate these two powerful combatants. But Warlock tells Strange, you have the power to summon those who can stop this. And Strange opens up a porthole, and says, I was only able to locate these 5 before your return. They will do nicely, gentlemen, if you be so kind. So he summons the 5 characters that he finds are Doom, Drax the Destroyer, Firelord, Hulk, and Thor. So this is like Adam Warlock's posse right now. Like, these heavy hitters are it. This reminds me of in the song My Posse's on Broadway from Sir Mix-a-Lot. At the end, when they finally get to Dick's, because Dick's is the spot where the cool hang out. The Swass party and the rich, are there. I can't remember exactly the way it goes, but they finally get to Dick's, and they're these other sucker crews are messing with Mix-a-Lot's crew, and Mix-a-Lot points out to them. He says, "Look, I have a fly crew. I have a fresh crew. You just have a bunch of dudes. Like, your crew is a bunch of dudes with unearned swagger. So this is the crew. Like, you got the dudes are right here. This is Mix's crew." So they show up and they separate these combatants, and they all try to figure out what's going on. We take a minute here to check in with Nebula, who says sudden omnipotence would be a crushing load even for the finest mind. But Nebula's scarred psyche, it must be overwhelming. Total confusion reigns as she strives to adjust to the deluge of universal sensory input, suffering the nightmare of abruptly becoming aware of all life and matter. Most certainly the thought of escaping into a catatonic oblivion enters her chaotic soul. Pray that she does not surrender to the urge. So we see the shrine has gone through yet another fixer-upper, another redesign, where the monuments that were Lady Mistress Death's and then were Thanos's are now giant likenesses of Nebula. So we have this awkward moment where they're all Thanos, Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, Thor, Hulk, Drax, Silver Surfer, and Firelord are all just sitting around Strange's study, and there's this hilarious part where Strange has got a couch, and Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange are sitting right next to each other, but there's no one sitting on the far side of Doctor Doom. So I'm like, how come Doctor Doom doesn't leave, like, the fag seat in the middle, or whatever they call it? That's probably not a politically correct term or whatever nowadays, but you got to leave that seat in the middle, so you're not just all hunkered up next to some dude who just happens to be the Latvian supervillain despot. So anyhow, Doom gets himself expelled from the posse because he thinks that Warlock and Thanos are in cahoots, and he's rebel rousing, and Thor winds up expelling him. So Warlock and Thanos start talking, and Warlock convinces Thanos to help get the gauntlet off of Nebula. They're saying, she's suffered and she's not in the right mind. She's not mentally prepared to wield this Infinity Gauntlet. So Thanos agrees to help. So Doom's back. He just got expelled from the room, I guess. He's back with them. They send the posse off to fight, and they leave Thanos, Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, and the Surfer in sort of reserve for right now. And they leave, and Warlock tells Thor, "Fight well, Asgardian." Thor says, "We shall give it our all." They haven't one chance in a million for victory. And so they all take off to fight Nebula. and she's talking to Eros, and she says, in exactly 5 seconds from now, I will be receiving visitors. 2 old foes and 3 others whose recent actions have earned them animosity. I don't know. So, the heroes show up, heroes in Doom, the posse show up and attack. And, Nebula binds them with the stones that this shrine is made. And she has them like locked up, and that's when these 4, the Surfer, Strange, Warlock, and Thanos show up. She says, "Your brother Thanos," and he says, "Come to reclaim my rightful property, wench." And she says, "With the help of your 2 little friends, you disappoint me, Thanos. And I thought that you would make your last stand armed with more than just empty bravado." And the Silver Surfer's like, 2 little friends? There's like 3 of us here. So we're going to move into this last issue right here. Power has a quality that must be cultivated and nurtured. It is a reward to be earned through intellect and patience. It cannot be gained and held through chance. In the wrong hands, it will only prove self-destructive. This is the final confrontation on a floating satellite many light years from Earth. So they're on the shrine. The posse's tied up with shrine rocks. Thanos, Doctor Strange, and the Surfer are confronting Nebula. And Surfer's still trying to get his brain around why he said 2 little friends, but 3 accompany Thanos. And if you're looking, Adam Warlock is actually standing behind Nebula. So he's with her, like he's behind her, but the idea is that he stands outside of the realm because of this connection that he has with the Infinity Stones. So she also wraps Thanos up with these rocks. And so Strange and Surfer understand that she can't see Warlock, and Thanos is starting to get the idea. He says Nebula is unaware of Warlock's presence. And he cracks this big smile, and she says, "I see no reason for you might have for smiling, old man." And he is just goading her on. Now remember, his mind was ready. His keen intellect was ready to wield the power. But they all know that she is not prepared. She is not as prepared. And this thing about her being tortured for months, is just part of it. And he's egging her on. He says, which clearly illustrates the pathetic limits of your own intellectual capacity. You haven't the vision necessary to properly exploit the Infinity Gems. And she says, "But I suppose you do." And he said, "Well, look what I've accomplished so far." And she says, "Great deeds, such as killing half the universe." And he says, "Thinning the herd." She answers, "Sheer insanity." And he says, "A grandeur beyond your comprehension and sophistry." Warlock is signaling to Doctor Strange, and he's casting spells behind his back. And Nebula then they trick her, and she says she's talking about the sophistry and its sheer insanity of what he's done with the Infinity Stone. So she raises her fist and she says, with the exception that I retain possession of the Infinity Gauntlet, let everything be as it was 24 hours ago. So we get this cool page of a lot of the characters. We see Hulk in the bar that he started out in, and we see Eros and Drax and Firelord and Mentor back on Titan, and Doctor Doom is sitting there, and she says, most will remember nothing of what occurred. Some will have a nagging feeling that something is or was amiss, and Namar's back, and Thor's back in New York, and Iron Man has got his head back, and Spider-Man is with Mary Jane, and Captain America is with Hawkeye, and Thanos says, for dear Nebula, willed that everything be as it was. When one has the power of a god, she should be very careful for what she wishes for. And you see this great shot of Nebula back in her zombified form laying there, and Thanos just reaches out to reclaim the gauntlet, and he says wishes are sometimes fulfilled. She recovers quickly though, and she's back up to her form with the gauntlet, and she says, a mistake that even a wretched thing that I was can rectify but with a thought. While your error of gloating when you should have been grasping the power you crave will not be so easily remedied. And she wraps him back up with his rocks or whatever. Warlock seizes on this opportunity to try to snatch the gauntlet. He reaches out, and she blasts Surfer, who falls down, and Warlock falls off it falls out into space. And she says, how is it that you two still remain? Of course. And she binds Strange because she realizes he's a magician, and that's probably how they're still hanging out. And so again, this is just more of a distraction upon distraction, because since she had put everything back to the way it was 24 hours ago, she has released the cosmic gods who show up to deal with her and her having this gauntlet. We see more giant energy explosions. We imagine that this is the reliving the same battle as they did when they attacked Thanos. Well, Surfer and Warlock wake up, and they're in the Soul World. And we see that they're in the Soul World while Nebula is battling all these cosmic gods. And so Warlock is explaining, the cosmic entities have learned well from our initial encounter, and they attack now en masse rather than diffusing their might in individual efforts. Nebula's bewilderment with the omnipotence in her light grasp on the newfound power must be sensed by them. Their strategy is obviously to hammer her with unrelenting assault, thus keeping her from concentrating on the multi-level plane of existence. And so her full strength is not allowed to be brought into play. As expected, Nebula doesn't see this and has fallen victim to the ploy. And Thanos says, and of course, such tactics would have proven futile against me. So, Warlock and Surfer are talking, and so Warlock points out that they're in the Soul Gem. This is kind of like his hood, and he was like, he has a special link with the Soul Gem, and he starts like growing, and he kind of grows out into outer space. So we see this cool splash page of Nebula just fighting these cosmic beings, and we see Warlock leads Surfer in the Soul World, and he stretches out with the help of the Infinity Gauntlet itself, with the help of the Soul Gem, he transcends his physical limitations and he expands into outer space. And he says, nowhere, everywhere, at one with the universe of the Soul Gem. From the one, I reach out to the five. So this is him using his mysterious connection to the Infinity Gems. And we see on Earth, the heroes are kind of like doing their own thing. Pip and Gamora are hanging out with Iron Man. And they see Adam Warlock in space, and Thanos tells Doctor Strange that it is almost over. And there's a giant explosion, and we see that Nebula has won against these cosmic gods, and instead of holding them in stasis above the shrine, she's built them into the shrine as like these giant statues. And now her likeness has this weird like a crown on it. And she says, a new order exists within the universe. All hail the coming of the omnipotent Nebula. And Surfer's still in the soul world, and he goes, Adam, don't get lost out there. It's very easy to do. So Nebula is monologuing still to Thanos, where she says, Thanos, bear witness to the birth of an astral dynasty which will last many a millennium, perhaps forever. What do you say to that? And Thanos says, let there be. And Warlock says, disharmony. And the gauntlet burns. She removes the gauntlet and it falls down to the floor of the shrine, scorched. Thanos sees his opportunity and he says, retribution. And Doctor Strange says it's time to call in the cavalry. So Thanos busts out of his bonds and he says, dear Nebula, you learn godhood proves to be an easy mantle, not easily worn. Now observe how such a power should properly be wielded. And so these reserves, the posse, now attack, trying to stop Thanos from grabbing the Infinity Gauntlet. Quickly, my friends, the gauntlet must not fall into Thanos' hands. And so everybody... Nebula strikes Strange, and she's like, I'm getting that gauntlet back. So all the heroes are pounding on Nebula and Thanos, trying to stop them from getting the gauntlet. And they build a joke in here where Drax is actually attacking the Hulk. They make a joke in here because they talk about how Drax is dim-witted. So he's trying to get the Hulk in a headlock. And Hulk's like, you idiot, I'm on your side. So she's reaching. Nebula's reaching. Thanos is reaching. Everybody's trying to stop them. They almost have it. And a light, like a rainbow explosion happens, and in the middle of it we see Adam Warlock, the golden space Jesus, now wields the Infinity Gauntlet, and he says, let the conflict end. There looks like there's a new supreme being in the neighborhood, and he will deal with all matters in his own fashion. Thanos says, that gauntlet belongs to me. And he says, you'd only lose it again, Titan. You don't really desire it. She says, are you fools going to let him grab the power? What right has he to it? And Warlock says, the right of possession. That is enough. The infinity power is now Adam Warlock. Seek not to dispute this claim. And everybody's like, okay. And Warlock says, I promise to use it wisely. And Hulk is like, what about these bozos? Talking about Nebula and Thanos. And Thanos strikes Drax. Drax is like, Thanos is mine. Thanos strikes them both, and he says, "Unhand me, you dim-witted brutes. I suggest you puny fools put some distance between yourselves and my person. Thermal nuclear device on my person is set to detonate in 15 seconds. The Surfer's like, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I would prefer death to imprisonment. Pride, my one fatal flaw." And Eric Masterson as fake Thor, flies down and strikes Thanos, shooting him into space where this thermonuclear explosion goes off. And Hulk's like, "Man, that was a way to go." Exactly what I've expected from Thanos. So everyone's kind of coming to grips that Adam Warlock is going to keep this Infinity Gauntlet. Eros says, "As a representative of the sovereign state of Titan, I claim custody of Nebula. Titan shall judge and imprison her." Warlock says, "So be it," and zaps them away. So Warlock keeps Strange, Thor, and Silver Surfer, and he kind of just talks to them, and he is like, "Look, really, I'm the best person to hold this. I have detached from my emotions, and I will, use this power for good." And that's kind of the way it ends. So there's some epilogue stuff about where they wait for a little while, and Gamora, Pip, and Adam Warlock go and visit Thanos, who's become a farmer on some off backwater planet somewhere, who claims that he isn't looking for power. He's learned his lesson. And it ends with Thanos. Like I said, he's like a farmer somewhere or something. He says he's hung his armor up as a scarecrow in his fields. And the Pip's like, "We should just kill this guy. He's going to be nothing but problems." And Adam Warlock says that, the universe is a mosaic, and Thanos is part of it. And if Thanos wasn't here, the mosaic would not be complete. And so we end here with Thanos. Thanos' deep thoughts from Thanos. He says, "Adam Warlock, a being who wished nothing more than to spend the rest of his days within the peaceful environment of the Soul Gem. Now he possesses the infinite power and all the responsibilities that go with it. While I, whose entire life was dedicated on the pursuits of power, now find myself scraping out a living from the soil. Irony worthy of the drama. Yet strangely enough, though, I envy not Adam Warlock. Somehow I feel, in the long run, Thanos of Titan came out ahead in this particular deal." The end. Whew. It's been a long day of podcasting for me. And I'm ready to go. So,
Stigmata Studios presents The Scorpion Strikes. In this comic book, a terrorist called the Scorpion is transported to a secret CIA prison. He quickly turns the tables on the guards and administrators and releases the prisoners. A well-armed anarchist called Constituent Zero assembles a team and fights to take the prison back. This story is a dark political action thriller. The Scorpion's actions set the stage perfectly for the Jin Jihad. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com. Stigmata Studios presents The Test of the Scorpion. In this comic book, while the Jin Jihad is raging on one side of the city, the terrorist called the Scorpion sets a secondary attack in motion as he obtains a small tactical nuclear bomb. A mysterious, ever-living warrior called Cyrus the Dead Guy steps forward to test the faith of the Scorpion and his lunatic followers. This is an action-adventure story. It's a bit of swashbuckler that wraps up the Jihad stories. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on the Scorpion Strikes, the Jin Jihad, the Test of the Scorpion, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the Infinity Gauntlet episodes. And I'm going to end this episode like I ended the last two. We're going to hear Soda Jerk and the song Fucking Fight. And thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to check out the newly redesigned.com, stigmatastudios.com, rate and review on iTunes, and check out patreon.com/abracast. Peace out.
Sip. In my darling whiskey, she tightened up her grip, and she made me sick that night. I knew that the whiskey would take up my life. Well, I stand a full 2 inches below 5'9", and every guy here wants to take me alive. So I'll take a shot of whiskey and punch out their lines. The whiskey, it makes me wanna fucking fight. I fucking fight, fucking fight. The whiskey, it makes me wanna fucking fight. Not even the crack of dawn is safe. So I'll take a shot of whiskey and say goodnight. The whiskey, it makes me wanna fucking